Sporting JAX was named after a year of consultation with the First Coast community, who wanted our soccer clubs to be accessible and authentic. They told us it was important for our brand to strongly represent both our women's and men's teams, and to proudly represent our entire region, widely known as JAX.
Like our city, our club's crest is bold and determined. Our shield symbolizes our resolve to honor and defend the First Coast. Our circular badge represents our inclusivity of all.
As Sporting JAX, our name supports our mission to provide everyone in our community with a sporting chance. Our colors, chosen by our fans, are inspired by our beloved First Coast sunrises, symbolic of our region's stunning natural beauty.
Playing at the highest levels of the United Soccer League, our club is committed to providing a true local pathway to professional soccer, to elevating soccer and other sports in our community, and to lifting every voice in everything we do, both on and off the pitch.
We are Sporting Club Jacksonville.
We are Sporting JAX.
This is the Sporting JAX Soccer Hour on AM 930 Fox Sports Radio Jacksonville. Ahead, it's 60 minutes of soccer talk from Sporting JAX to the USL and around the world. Now here's Cole Pepper.
Hello and welcome into the first edition, part 2 of the Sporting JAX Report, now on AM 930 here in Jacksonville. Coming up on the show, Sporting JAX dips into the U.S. men's national team to add some key staff member, and the momentum continues to build. Plus, the first leg of the Champions League quarterfinals are in the books. Who has the edge? Plus, we get Becky Burleigh's thoughts on the U.S. women's national team after a pair of friendlies against Brazil, in which a local star gets capped. All right, we'll start as we welcome in Mauricio Ruiz, who joins us from Portugal. Mal, how are you doing tonight?
We're doing great. There's a lot of excitement going on in Jacksonville right now. I keep seeing, everything pop up, and I keep getting all the emails. It sounds like a really exciting time to be in Jacksonville. A little bit opposite of Porto. Porto FC is on the decline. Everybody's up on the streets, and so it seems like Jacksonville right now might be a more popular soccer place to be.
Well, let's start there. We'll get to Champions League, but let's start, since you brought it up, the momentum that has been happening here in Jacksonville and with the USL since the beginning of the year. I mean, just start rolling off what has happened. You have first, the USL announces intentions for a first division league. Promotion relegation is going to be rolled out. Sporting JAX names the head of soccer, Mark Warburton. They get a deal done with Adidas as the official kit supplier. And then the hiring of Stacey Balaam. And now the addition this week of Steve Fell, hired as the head of performance, who has been working and will continue to, by the way, work with the U.S. men's national team. These are some high-level additions, and the momentum just seems to keep getting greater and greater every week. Yeah,
you guys are making me, having second thoughts about not being in Jacksonville in our project with Sporting JAX, because, all the things that you kind of rattled off, obviously outside of the USL, announcing, first tier and then promotion relegation. We knew those rumblings were going to happen at some point. I think they came a little bit earlier than we anticipated, which is exciting as far as a conversation point for the future to see where it's going to go. But internally, the things that we knew were going to happen, Mark and I have been working closely together for the last several months until we were able to make the announcement, which was really exciting to kind of finally get that cat out of the bag, if you would. Because at that point, it really it's a domino effect, right? It's about getting the head coach and then eventually getting the sports performance team together. And then soon here, we're going to be able to kind of start getting players together too. So, the Adidas thing is fantastic. It's been, honestly, Cole, it's been a 2-year work in progress with Adidas. A lot of it was pending on our club youth partnership with Florida League that was kind of ongoing. It's never an easy thing when a club of that magnitude is coming underneath and working together with the organization. So there's so many of these pieces all have their own little story behind them, which is kind of really cool. So to see them kind of almost get rolled out one after the other, including the hiring of our first women's head coach in Stacey, it's just a really exciting time to be part of it. And it's kind of cool to watch almost from literally 10,000 feet above, because I'm in a higher altitude in a way, just see these things kind of because when you're in the weeds of it, sometimes you might take it for granted, or it's really tiring and it's exhaustive to a certain point. And you have to be exhaustive because you have to make sure you're doing the right things. When you're kind of removed from it, like kind of I am, and I kind of get to participate on the periphery, it's all but excitement. And I think the club's doing a really good job of bringing in some top level individuals to put this team together.
It has been quite a start to 2025. And of course, it all points to kicking off the first season in Sporting JAX history in the USL Super League. The season will start in August, the regular season. We expect there probably will be some friendlies at some point before that as well, but very exciting. And we also have, as a little teaser to think about what's happening moving forward, we've got the USLW League, which is going to kick off next month. And both the W League as well as League One, which are the pre-professional teams. I keep hearing rumblings about this USLW team and how loaded it's going to be with talent. And I think a lot of these young women are coming in from a situation where they're in college and thinking, or thinking for the future. Hey, if I can come in here and impress, this might be a pathway to the pros, a direct pathway to the pros for a lot of these players who are going to be coming in there. So that's going to be something to watch here in the months of May and June.
Well, that's really how we've always envisioned this W League team. And that's why the partnership with Florida League was so critical, because he does create almost long term is going to create a bit of an under 23 team, right? But short term, it creates an opportunity for our women's team to have almost like a prolonged preseason and a talent identification period as well at the same time. So I do foresee a couple players that will be on the W League team making their pro debut come fall time. And I think some of that it's already kind of it's in the works. Some of them will be new discoveries, which would be exciting.
The other component here, you mentioned the hiring of Steve Fell, hired as the head of performance. And this is a major get. There's no doubt about that. To find somebody, part of the reason Sporting JAX was able to land him is because he lives in St. Augustine. So very convenient. He is so excited about the situation. We'll get to Champions League and USL Championship in just a moment. But right now, want to let you hear my interview with Steve Fell, which started with the question, why Jacksonville?
I mean, to start, you said it. It's an unbelievable project, and for the longest time, I have felt that the Jacksonville area is just primed for the USL in particular. Just having worked in the USL and seeing how much the game has grown over the course of this 10-year period. So to see it finally come to fruition, and at the size that it's coming to fruition, is really exciting. So for me, it was really it was a no-brainer to be not only someone who is local to the area. Over the past 15 years that we consider it to be home. So just to be able to do it in an area where you're familiar with people, from not only soccer folks, but just, friends that you've made over the years is an unbelievable opportunity. So myself and my family look at it as just an incredible opportunity to be a part of an amazing project that's really trying to do it at the highest level.
And you'll be able to do this and maintain the U.S. soccer work as well?
Fortunately, I'll be able to do that and play a role with the national team. Fortunately, we have a really robust staff on the national team, so it's no different really to what I do day to day already, except I'm in football 24/7, which I think when you talk about what's the difference between national team versus club, all the national team members are going to say it's not enough football at the national team level. Even though you're in it for a very intensive period of time, it's not daily. And I feel really, really fortunate that I can not only participate with the national team, but more importantly, be a part of football on a daily basis.
You're also coming into an environment that is not just one club, not just one team, one club, but with two teams. You'll have a women's team and a men's team. How much different is that from your standpoint, from your position, when you're going to have two separate teams to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting situation. I think first and foremost, I think it's incredible, and I think it's a model for what all clubs are going to trend towards. To have one umbrella, that being Sporting Club JAX, with a women and a men's representation at the professional academy and youth levels is outstanding. And for me, nothing is different between the two, other than it's just more it's more people to try to influence as far as when you're putting in best practices when it comes to performance, medical, and sports science initiatives. And speaking with the sporting director, Mark, and also Steve Livingston, we all agree it's all about the people that you bring in, and we just look at it as an unbelievable opportunity to have a place where people who want to be a part of something really special, very professional, but also help develop the young practitioners that are really interested in the field with regards to professional football.
All right, let's talk some blocking and tackling here with what you'll do. You mentioned the pro side, academy side, youth side. What will you be doing? What is your week going to look like with Sporting JAX?
Yeah, I think the thing with a high performance director traditionally is someone that oversees all performance, medical, and sports science initiatives within the club. Sometimes that can look very different at the clubs that you're in, just depending on the leadership and more particularly the head coaches of the organizations. I would imagine that my role within the club is going to first be able to understand what the game model is for for the women as well as the men, because at the end of the day, my role, I feel very strongly, is to support them the best way possible. So what I think is best, is irrelevant. It's really about what's the head coach's method and kind of style of play that they want to try and execute, and what things can we do on the high performance side, on the support side, that being performance, medical, and sports science, is going to help him or her best realize those things to help them get results. So I think it will be it's a big job. There's a lot that goes into it, but I think with the staff that's coming in, I know people are going to be very open to communicating on kind of the best practices when it comes to this, and then as we get into it, it will change. I always like to say nothing is concrete. We operate in a framework that's flexible, and as long as we can have good open communication and we execute on what we're saying we're going to do, then that's a great starting point.
What will be measurable success for you? When you do your job right, what happens?
Geez, that's a great question. I think, quite frankly, if you can look at two things. I think if you can look at player availability, as far as being available for first team selection, as well as how well does the team do. I think a lot of high performance directors, or maybe people on the performance or medical side, might not say that is necessarily a measure of success, but for me, you're directly related to kind of coaching decisions and helping them influence how they're going to train and how they're going to play. So I'm happy to take on the responsibility and put myself right next to the coaching staff if they want me there, and say, team results are certainly a huge indicator of how successful we've been, but it's also, and part of that is the availability of the players. So better availability of players, I think, equals better opportunity to potentially be successful.
How does your experience with U.S. Soccer impact this job? Are there resources or lessons that you have learned over your time working with the national team that you think directly apply to what you'll be doing here?
That's a great question, and 100%. I think I tell this to everybody who asks a similar question, that I feel really lucky to have been not only with the men's national team, but also in Major League Soccer and in the USL with Phoenix, and also at the college level. And throughout that time, I personally believe I've had some of the top people in the industry that I've been able to literally learn from for the past 10 to 11 years. And between Paul Caffrey, my mentor at Houston Dynamo, Steve Tashton, who brought me into the national team setup, Darcy Norman, also a very big mentor, and I know there's a couple other that I'm definitely missing, but those are individuals for me who are the top individuals in the game. So I've literally been able to learn by osmosis, by just being in the room with them and seeing how they interact with players, seeing how they have very difficult conversations, and then seeing what it's like to get it right, and also seeing how it's like to get it wrong. And I'm not naive to think that it's not going to be a challenge, because there'll definitely be challenges. But one of the things that all those mentors has showed me is they're very open to change when presented with the right opportunities and the right options to change. So for me, it's all the experiences leading up to this moment, I think, have prepared me well to take on this next challenge.
It's so interesting to me, because I think we're at a time in sports science or sports performance, where we're just starting to get a good grasp on like the science of it and all the different factors, but there's still a lot, it seems, of learning to happen in the industry, in the profession. How much has your profession changed in 10 years, and where do you see it going in the future?
I remember being at a sports science conference in 2011 in Seattle Sounders with Dave Tenney, who at the time was maybe one of 3 fitness coaches, or now high performance directors in the MLS. I remember going there and sitting in a room with all 3 of those individuals that I mentioned as being mentors, and there was 20 of us sitting there. So fast forward now, I mean, maybe this is 14 or 15 years later, it's grown unbelievably, fast as far as, how many people want to be involved, the latest developments, the different types of technologies that we use. So I think it will only continue to grow. One of the things that I feel, like anything, you have things that swing a certain way. So sometimes, understanding that football is a game that is supported by the sports sciences initiatives, it doesn't rule it. And what I mean by that is, there's an art to it, and there's a coach, and the very good coaches understand this. We can't get too far away from looking at what the game requires based off of the coach's eye, but we use the sports science side to really back it up. So while I see it still growing, I have seen it gone too far to the right in some occasions, but the ones that get it right, who I think live in the sweet spot, really value both ways of going about doing it. So I hope to add good pieces to the toolbox when it's appropriate, but without ever losing the human side of things of that football is, that we all have learned to love and grow with the game.
All right, last thought for you is, I want to know about, how did you come to soccer to begin with, and what does it mean to you to see a pro soccer club here, basically in what has become your home? You mentioned from St. Augustine, you live in St. Augustine, as a result of or putting that perspective of when you came to the game first and how far it's come.
Yeah, I think as a young American playing soccer, and going through the college system, and then having a little bit of an opportunity to play after college in the Major Arena Soccer League with the Baltimore Blast, way back, it seems like ages ago. That gives you a little bit of insight as just to how far soccer has come here in the United States, or I'll call it football has come here in the United States. The amount of opportunity for players now is unbelievable, and the proper pathways to grow and have a career in the game is certainly there. And for me, just to be a part of it, at the age that I'm at and the role that I'm in, it seems just like unbelievable timing, because for me, there's nothing like playing, but the next best thing is being involved in the game in this capacity.
Okay, well, there's Steve Fell and his conversation, Mauricio, and is again mentioning his background and his history. Everywhere he's been part of winners in MLS, USL Championship, and obviously participating with the U.S. men's national team at the very highest level in our country. What a great get for Sporting JAX.
Listen, if Steve Fell was simply, the guy filling the water bottles, you would think it's a steal, because he's just a superb human being, and you want him in your environment, and whatever capacity you want Steve in your environment. The fact that he comes with an extensive and almost unique skill set that is so vital for the head coach and the technical staff and support staff to have, which is in that sports performance, which ultimately means, how do I make my players better physically, mentally, and how do I keep them healthy, right? We're going to have all these high-level players, but the best ability is availability. And that's Steve Fell's kind of niche, right? If you're not available, we'll get you back to availability as quickly as possible and safely. But we want to keep you on the field, and we want the coaches to have a full allotment of players. The exciting part of it, Cole, is for our young community, because what Steve Fell is going to do, and I'm sure there'll be a plan that's going to get rolled out and communicated, but starting implementing part of sports performance and sports science into our academy and getting that all the way down to the lower levels, little things, right? It's not going to be overly robust in the beginning, but little things that 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-year-olds can be doing in order to improve their athleticism, and eventually 12 and teens, what they need to be doing to really enhance their opportunity to be a top professional player. And he knows top professional players. You're talking about he's working directly with U.S. men's national team in the Christian Pulisic's and the Team Wales and so forth and so on. So, I mean, what an unbelievable hire. Glad that we have St. Augustine in our backyard so can host someone like him. But I'm excited. Steve's a good friend, and he's a top human being as well.
It is Declan Rice. Oh! Absolutely unstoppable. It's a screamer from Declan Rice. He beat Thibaut Courtois for pace. And it must be, it's Muller. The magic of Muller. You cannot write him off. The stage was set, and the space finder has delivered.
Yamal. Koundé went beyond him. It opens up for him. Towards Rafinha. And Lewandowski on the line. It's another for Robert Lewandowski. His 10th of this Champions League. And this one comes against his former team as Barcelona extend their lead just after the restart.
Now focus on the Champions League. First legs of the quarterfinals in the books. Boy, you have to think that right now nobody's more pleased with where they are than Inter, having gone to Bayern and won 2-1 in that first leg. All they have to do is play them level at home, and Inter's on to the semifinals.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say no one's happier than Arsenal, but looking at Real Madrid's history back at the Bernabeu, seems like 3-0 in the Champions League is never really that big of a defeat for them for one reason or another. And I'm sure they don't like to live like that, but that's just the reality. But I think you're right. I think you hit it on the head. To go back home with a 2-1 lead against, I think that's crucial for Inter. And I don't think anyone saw that. But easier said than done, right? Because Bayern Munich is a Champions League caliber, championship caliber team. And it's not going to be easy, and they're going to have a point to prove.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, you mentioned Arsenal winning 3-0. They're going to be feeling good about their performance, obviously. But, boy, there's something different when you go to the Bernabeu, especially in the Champions League, especially this late in the process.
Well, Man City will tell you that.
I was about to bring that up. It is not an easy test for sure. As for the other Champions League games yesterday, a couple of rather tidy victories. Barcelona, a 4-0 win over Dortmund at home. Robert Lewandowski with a couple of goals there. Rafinha got things opened, and then the great young player, Lamine Yamal, scoring in the 77th minute to put it away. So Barca has a very comfortable 4-0 lead as they get ready to go to Dortmund for the next round of their quarterfinal matchup. When you get those kind of results at home, certainly a positive. PSG might be having one of their best Champions League runs this year, and they beat Aston Villa 3-1 with not a whole lot of trouble. Villa scored first, but then PSG just ran away with things, up 2-0 in the early portion of the second half, and got a late goal from Nuno Mendes in stoppage time to give a little extra. So now Villa will host PSG next week. They'll have to try to overcome that 2-goal deficit. And when you talk about the other matchups, how is Dortmund going to overcome a 4-goal aggregate against Barca? The second legs of the quarterfinals come up next week, so we won't have to wait long to see who winds up advancing to the semifinals. Let's look at the USL Championship here as well, Mauricio. the USL Championship teams, rather, in the U.S. Open Cup. The draw is out. There are 19 USL Championship teams remaining. A few matchups for next week's third round include Lou City hosting Loudoun United. You have FC Tulsa hosting Phoenix Rising, and New Mexico United hosting El Paso Locomotive. MLS sides that did not make the playoffs enter in the round of 32. That's next, 16 teams. But so far, it's been a pretty expected performance by the USL Championship teams in the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah, it really has. And when you look at the entire slate of games, I mean, the only one outlier that stands out there is still El Farolito taking on Czech Republic coming up. Besides that, it's ultimately a USL League One and Championship composition of teams. You got Columbus Crew 2 that made that win, and Tacoma Defiance, which is the Seattle Sounders second team as well. I think that's it, if I'm not mistaken. Everyone else is from the USL ecosystem of the Championship or League One. And I mean, that's kind of how it is, right? And it's great to see that, and teams start building steam and seeing how they're going to, I mean, it's always a conversation. How are they going to incorporate their roster? How deep is their roster to make sure that they're competing USL in US Open Cup, knowing that this year compared to last year, there will be more MLS teams in the draw, in the next round. So it's exciting. We're always looking for cup sets, even as within the US, in the USL system. Are there any League One teams that can surprise championship teams? I think that's what everyone's gonna be looking out for. And then El Farolito going to Czech Republic and seeing how they fare there.
Always a great storyline, the cup sets for the smaller market teams. All right, we'll take time out here. I want to remind you that season tickets for the inaugural 2025-2026 Sporting JAX USL Super League season are on sale now. Season tickets start as low as $10 per game for students, $12 per game for supporters, and $15 per game for general admission, with premium and field seating also available. Go to sportingjax.com or call 904-863-KICK to place your order and be among the first to join the movement. You can also use an installment plan that gains all the benefits of season ticket membership without having to pay it all at once. Once again, 904-863-KICK to place your order and be among the first to join the movement for Sporting JAX in the USL Super League. When we come back, Becky Burleigh joins us to talk about the U.S. women's national team splitting a couple of games against Brazil, and we saw a couple of local players on display during the week. Also, straight ahead, we will rejoin Mauricio and check in on the Premier League for this weekend as the chase for the title starts to wind down. That's straight ahead. This is the Sporting JAX Soccer Hour.
Join me as I take a deep dive into the least insulted ticketing app in history, SeatGeek. Did SeatGeek invent the ticket?
No, but we do make them work.
Drum roll, please. Ooh, how do I use the Seat View feature?
It shows seats with a pole blocking the view. Don't buy those.
What if I want to sit behind a pole?
Buy those.
Join me as I bore you to death with a series of interviews about a ticketing app that just does what it's supposed to do.
We are a river city, a bold city, the First Coast, a place to create and to belong. Here, the sun shines a little brighter, and so do the people. We share a love for our region, a pride for JAX, and a passion for the beautiful game, dedicated to giving everyone a sporting chance. Together, we will elevate soccer and sport in our community by lifting every voice. We are Sporting Club Jacksonville. We are Sporting JAX.
Hey there, folks. If you're like me and love some good quality barbecue, then look no further than the Bearded Pig. Whether it's some juicy pulled pork, succulent spare ribs, or their award-winning Texas brisket, no one beats the Bearded Pig. With 2 locations to serve you in San Marco and Jax Beach, the Bearded Pig is the spot for lunch with friends, dinner with your family, or a great happy hour featuring their signature backyard pigtails. So come in today for the best barbecue in Jacksonville. And don't forget that homemade banana pudding.
Hey there, this is Jeremy Baker inviting you to Grace Note Brewing. We are a brand new music-themed, family-friendly craft brewery that specializes in offering something for everyone, whether that's the Jam ESB, the Berry Tone Fruited Sour, or the Enharmonic IPA. We are located at the Sadler Point Marina, underneath the Roosevelt Bridge between Avondale and Ortega. You can even get to us by boat. Come check us out in person and stay tuned through social media at Grace Note Brewing. Cheers, everyone.
Greetings from Jacksonville, the flip side of Florida. Here, you'll find flip-flops and cowboy boots, sushi and soul food, surfers and skaters, Mozart and monster trucks, beachgoers and townies. Find art galleries and city murals, funky neighborhoods, and historic districts. Spend the day on the river or at the beach, in the park or on the trail, at the game or on the green. On the flip side, anything is possible, except running out of things to do. Learn more at visitjacksonville.com.
Stay connected with Sporting JAX on social media on Instagram and X. It's at Sporting_JAX on Facebook. It's Sporting JAX. And remember to subscribe on the Sporting JAX YouTube channel. Now back to the Sporting JAX Soccer Hour on AM 930 Fox Sports Radio Jacksonville.
All right, let's turn our attention now to the U.S. women's national team coming off a couple of friendlies against Brazil. Saturday and then Tuesday night, split the two. I think we can possibly say that there were two very different games in terms of result, but I think in terms of what we saw on the pitch, a lot of very similar storylines. A lot of young players getting opportunities for the United States. Brazil coming at them with a lot of pace, a lot of energy, high press, really tried to put the pressure on. The U.S. Certainly had their moments. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think getting hung up on the score is as important as the lessons that are being developed here. I want to play some sound from after the game from Emma Hayes, the head coach of the U.S. women's national team. And you can really hear her strategic background going into this. Obviously, she wants to win every match she possibly can. But more than that, she wants to get out of every match some important things. Here's what she had to say after the loss to Brazil on Tuesday night.
We mustn't always measure progress by outcome. That was the youngest capped US women's national team in 24 years. So what a great experience for them to go into a game which you get to feel the pressure of playing a really, really difficult opponent. And if I only prioritise short-term success, of course I wouldn't make that many changes. But I'm not making decisions for the short term. I'm prioritising the progress from expanding the playing pool to getting to see what these players look like in a really difficult match. I want us to have a more ruthless mentality to say, if we cannot win, we do not lose. And I felt the way we conceded the goal was like really poor, and from us. You know, sometimes you have to do some other things, and didn't think we did that part. And as I said, I'm playing the long game with this, and I feel we're much better off for it.
There were also some local players who got an opportunity to showcase their stuff for the U.S. women's national team. Mandy McGlynn, the former Sandalwood keeper, got a start. Her third cap, I believe, with the U.S. now. And Avery Patterson, former Bolles star, who then went on to North Carolina, now playing for the Houston Dash, was capped for the first time on Saturday, got in toward the end of the match, and then got her first start on Tuesday night. This is a great little bit of behind-the-scenes, kind of hidden mic stuff. Here's what Emma Hayes said to Avery Patterson before going into the match for the first time, getting capped, her first appearance for the U.S. women's national team on Saturday.
What would your 10-year-old self say to yourself? Have fun, then do that, all right? Congrats. You ready? Let's do this.
What a great moment there. And then on Tuesday night, Avery gets the opportunity to get the start, and she certainly caught Emma Hayes' eye. Here are Hayes' comments after the game on Tuesday.
I mean, what a game Claire Hutton had, and Avery Patterson. I thought those two players were superb. And I took decisions to say I want to see a few more first, and I'm prioritising that individual, what's the word? Just see where they're really at for me to go, I'm a lot clearer now, and that's for me, an important step, because I wouldn't know that if I don't put Avery Patterson in this position. If I play her against, say, China or an Ireland, I think I learned what I might already know, whereas today I learned what I didn't know, and I was really happy with it.
And we welcome in Becky Burleigh. All right, let's start first with the U.S. women's national team splitting a couple of games against Brazil over the past week. And I thought it was very interesting, Emma Hayes talking about being less concerned with results than what she learned. What do you think she learned over these two games?
Well, she definitely got to see a lot of people against a high quality opponent, and an opponent that has such a different style than the US that you have to adapt. Like, the physicality of both of those games was very high. And some people are going to thrive in that environment. Some people are going to struggle in that environment. So I think she learned a lot about how they can deal with that better moving forward.
She definitely is taking this long view of preparing for a World Cup. Her point was, if she would feel differently about the 2-1 loss on Tuesday night if it was the World Cup versus playing in, a friendly against Brazil a couple of years out. There's so much to learn. She doesn't have to decide who she's going to have right now, but I have to think that she's starting to think about what the short list is, or maybe the medium list, for who is going to be invited back into the camps in the future.
Yeah, I think of this as like job interview rounds, so you got a big pool in the first round, you kind of narrow it down in the second round, and you keep going until you get to your final list or your final people. And the cool thing about it is she's really opened it up to a big pool of people from the beginning. That only looks to strengthen, because just because someone's not picked in this cycle doesn't mean their career in the national team is over. I mean, I think she has exposed enough people to it to be able to build and continue to build this roster in different ways.
And one of those players who was invited into the Futures Camp and then invited into the senior team, got her first cap, and then on Tuesday night gets her first start, is Jacksonville's Avery Patterson, the former Bolles School star, now with Houston Dash. And when you listen to what Emma Hayes says about Avery, you really hear praise for a player who really, I think, signifies the kind of progress that Emma wants to see from a player looking forward in that long view.
And I think what Emma says and what we all see about Avery is she is the future. She's like the modern soccer player, right? And the reason I say that is because she can problem solve. She's athletic enough to manage the most athletic players in the world. And she's just one of those players who is going to put it all on the line. I love her enthusiasm, and her excitement about being kind of a newbie in this environment. And there's something to be said for that energy. And you will only grow in confidence the more you play in this environment. But I do think she's one of the future stars of this group.
You talked about her versatility. She plays in the midfield sometimes. She played left back for the U.S. Against Brazil. And then on corner kicks, she's right in there bodying up against, a goalkeeper or a defender in the 6-yard box. So she certainly spanned a lot of real estate, particularly in the game in which she started.
And, a left back to me is the hardest, or at least one of the hardest positions to fill on any team. It just requires so much, so many different characteristics to be really successful, particularly the way the U.S. plays, because they're going to ask them to be attacking players. And Avery's offensive capabilities from her collegiate career plus her club career now give her, I think, a real leg up on competition in that position because she's so versatile.
There was another Jacksonville native who got a lot of work, Mandy McGlynn, who had been capped previously, did get the start on Tuesday night in the loss. We saw Brazil put a lot of pressure on Mandy when the ball was at her feet early on. And I don't know you'd necessarily blame her for the first half goal. That was poor defending in front of her. But what'd you make of her performance against Brazil?
I think it was a tale of two halves. Like from a decision-making standpoint in the first half, particularly when it comes to distribution, probably she'll look back on that and think, okay, there's some changes I can make there. But then you look at the second half when she was under a pretty decent amount of pressure, and I thought she really stepped up to that. And to me, the first half issues are very fixable. So for her to have the second half to show why she's in that pool to begin with, I think it was actually a pretty good, well-rounded opportunity for growth and confidence.
Yeah, if you were in Emma's shoes and you saw a better second half than a first half, you'd probably prefer that than the other way around, where you see maybe somebody wears down or starts to feel the pressure as the game goes on. It was just the opposite with Mandy.
Absolutely. I mean, it just shows her ability to adjust in real time. And that's something that is a skill that not every player possesses. So I was excited for her for the second half. I thought she really stepped up.
It's going to be interesting to see how that position is handled moving forward. Of course, Elisa Nair retiring from international play. So that is a big question mark for the United States moving forward. One other thing I wanted to point out about Avery Patterson, she had quite a week overall. I mean,
that's one way to say it.
So many things happened. She gets her first cap, and we heard a little, mic'd up with the exchange that Emma Hayes had with her right beforehand, saying, what would your 10-year-old self think about this moment? What would she say? And Avery's response was, have fun. And Emma says, do that. Go out there and have fun. I mean, what a great exchange for a coach on the sideline. So she gets her first cap. Then they go to San Jose and go to a different hotel. She gets stuck in the elevator for like 45 minutes. Then she gets her first start. Then she gets hit in the face with a ball. I have to think that this will not be a week soon forgotten for Avery Patterson.
Definitely creating some core memories there. I don't know if we want a core memory of being stuck in an elevator for 45 minutes, but again, like think about the, the stress if you're in that situation, along with the stress of knowing that you're starting for the first time and you're in this super high performing environment. To be honest, I think she handled it really well. I hope her injury is nothing serious. It didn't appear to be, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see how that comes out in the end. But I just feel like these are all things that are going to help her be a better player and a better person as this cycle continues.
And to be stuck in an elevator with Becky Sauerbrunn, who I'm certain, you talk about one of the legendary players in the U.S. Women's national team's history, and here you are about to make your first start, and here's this legend stuck with you for 45 minutes.
There's opportunity in that for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's also we've kind of glossed over this a little bit, but it's clear now that the World Cup is coming back to the United States in 2031. It's a ways off, 6 years, but the United States is the only country that put in a bid to host in 31. Potentially could do what is happening with the U.S. in the Men's World Cup by bringing in some other CONCACAF countries. What kind of an opportunity does hosting the World Cup here for the women's game offer at this point in the progress that has been made by the women's game in this country coming up here, 6 years from now?
I'm super excited about the 2031. And when they said 2031, I'm like, gosh, that's a long way away. And then when you say like 6 years, it's like, well, it's really not. And so for me, I think the opportunity is to bring the rest of the world's progress to the American stage. And clearly the American progress will be on display too. But I think I'm going to the Euros this summer. One of the reasons I'm going to the Euros is because I think it's so fascinating to watch the level of play continue to increase year after year. And if you're not following international soccer, except every 4 years, you only see it like the big jumps. I love to see the incremental jumps, but man, if people haven't watched in a while, you're going to be shocked at the level. There's not going to be, if any, big gap results anymore because everything is closing.
We know obviously Spain and England have been more or less leading the way. France has certainly come a long way. What other countries are you going to be looking forward to for that to see how far they've come.
I just think of teams that you wouldn't have an expectation of maybe 10 years ago, like Colombia, for example. Like that's a team where if you said, hey, the national team is going to play a couple friendlies against Colombia, you'd be like yawning. Mm-hmm. Now you're like, oh, sweet. Great talent on display, And I think some of you see some emergence and maybe re-emergence of some of the Asian countries, the teams that you knew, like Japan, of course, is like a given. But, I'm going to be very interested even to see China as an upcoming friendly. That is something that you don't really know what's happening in these other places around the world until you see it firsthand.
Very interesting. We'll keep a close eye on that as we move forward. Let's talk about the USL Super League. And I think we can now start talking about, the playoff chase because we're starting to get down to it. We know that the top 4 teams will make it on to the postseason. And it has been a little bit of a revolving door in terms of the top of the table. We've seen Fort Lauderdale up there. We've seen Brooklyn up there. We've seen Carolina up there at the top. Those 3, Dallas now making a charge. They've won 4 of their last 5. Outside of those 4, do you see anybody else able to challenge? Tampa Bay right now is 2 points back of the final playoff spot.
Well, that's who I was going to mention. I mean, I think Tampa Bay has a lot left in them, and this final push is going to determine that. But to see some of the emergence, I mean, Dallas is not a surprise for me that they're moving up. Brooklyn falling is a little bit of a surprise to me because they had such a strong start to the season and didn't really make that many changes. But I think what that speaks to is the changes that other teams have made at the break.
Yeah, Brooklyn have lost 3 of their last 5 and winless in their last 5 to go from top of the table to now 4 points behind Carolina. And I'm with you on Dallas. I think the changes they made in the interim, in the midseason, have paid huge dividends for them. We knew that Lexi Missimo was probably going to make an impact, and she certainly has. But that whole team has really come together. On the other end, you've got a team like DC Power. We want to focus on DC this week as well. They're at the bottom of the table. They've lost 4 and drawn 1 in their last 5. They have 15 points from 20 matches, only 3 victories. That's the fewest in the USL Super League. How tough is it as a coach to get your message across now with 8 games remaining and very little chance of a postseason? It has to be a very difficult time in DC.
Yes and no. I mean, for sure, when you're at the bottom of the table with no real chance at playoffs. But the opportunity in that is when those outcomes aren't dangling right in front of you, it's a great chance to get rooted in your culture and your environment. And they have had a coaching change. So there is the idea of somewhat of a fresh start in that space. But I think the biggest thing for me is you're not going to be distracted by making decisions based on the outcome. You can be fully immersed in your process, and hopefully that's where they go.
All right, good stuff, Becky. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good.
Hey there, this is Jeremy Baker inviting you to Grace Note Brewing. We're a brand new music-themed, family-friendly craft brewery that specializes in offering something for everyone, whether that's the Jam ESB, the Berry Tone Fruited Sour, or the Enharmonic IPA. We are located at the Sadler Point Marina, underneath the Roosevelt Bridge between Avondale and Ortega. You can even get to us by boat. Come check us out in person and stay tuned through social media at Grace Note Brewing. Cheers, everyone.
Greetings from Jacksonville, the flip side of Florida. Here, you'll find flip-flops and cowboy boots, sushi and soul food, surfers and skaters, Mozart and monster trucks, beachgoers and townies. Find art galleries and city murals, funky neighborhoods, and historic districts. Spend the day on the river or at the beach, in the park or on the trail, at the game or on the green. On the flip side, anything is possible, except running out of things to do. Learn more at visitjacksonville.com.
Hey there, folks. If you're like me and love some good quality barbecue, then look no further than the Bearded Pig. Whether it's some juicy pulled pork, succulent spare ribs, or their award-winning Texas brisket, no one beats the Bearded Pig. With 2 locations to serve you in San Marco and Jax Beach, the Bearded Pig is the spot for lunch with friends, dinner with your family, or a great happy hour featuring their signature backyard pigtails. So come in today for the best barbecue in Jacksonville. And don't forget that homemade banana pudding.
Become a season ticket owner with Sporting JAX. Season tickets start as low as $10 per game. Go to sportingjax.com/tickets or call 904-863-KICK. Now back to the Sporting JAX Soccer Hour on AM 930 Fox Sports Radio Jacksonville.
And we continue on here on the Sporting JAX Soccer Hour. Cole Pepper, Mauricio Ruiz rejoins us now. Now let's take a look at the Premier League coming up this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. One Monday game as well. You look at the table, and right now it looks pretty much a story written. Liverpool has 11 points on Arsenal, and that would seem to be a pretty much impossible task for Arsenal to catch Liverpool. But there are some things to be played for, including, as we found out this week, there will be 5 Champions League positions coming out of the Premier League rather than what has been 4 with the expanded field. There's a new formula to determine how many. And so there'll be 5 Premier League teams. I have to think the folks at Newcastle United were overjoyed to hear that official word come out, as they were hoping. They sit in 5th right now.
Yeah, so does that mean that 6th place goes to Europa League and 7th place gets into the conference? Because yeah, you just add a lot more excitement into that race if that's the case. Because now 7th place could potentially have an European slot like West Ham had a few years back and when they beat Fiorentina. But I would agree with you. I think the best race, I was hoping, you always want for some drama in the bottom race for relegation, and that seems to be kind of done and dusted as well. I think officially Southampton, with 10 points is relegated, and Ipswich and Leicester City quite a big far. So I think those are the 3 that came up, right, Cole? If I'm not mistaken.
Those are all the same 3 that came up last year. Going to go back down.
So we had talked about which ones. Yeah. So really, the battle that everyone's going to be watching for, and it's a really tight battle. I mean, you can incorporate Brighton all the way to 9th place in there because they're only 47 points. They're 6 points away from 4th place. That's incredible, right? It's a 2-game turnaround, and there's some head-to-head games that'll be happening here. You got Fulham and Bournemouth playing head-to-head. 8th place versus 10th, and there's a lot of really good fixtures being happening in the last couple of weeks. But I think the battle for that Champions League and then just Europe in general will be a really interesting one to watch.
Well, I also want to just throw out a name of a club that might, pull the come from behind here at the end of the year, and that's Crystal Palace. They're playing very well right now, unbeaten in their last 5. They haven't lost a match since the middle of February, and you go back even further, they have only 2 losses since Christmas. So this is a team that is getting results every time they go out there. They've climbed up to 11th, 43 points, 2 more victories, and all of a sudden they're within shouting distance of a spot in Europe. So we'll see if Crystal Palace continues to play as well as they have. Certainly this week will be beneficial for them from a schedule standpoint. If they can get the victory, it will not be easy facing Man City, but if they can get that win, then boy, they're off and running and a team to be followed. Man City right now is outside looking in on those Champions League spots. They are a point behind Chelsea and Newcastle. So a lot on the line for Man City here at the end of the year.
Well, and Crystal Palace actually has had a lot of success as of late against Man City. It's one of those teams that Man City has a tough time figuring out, and Man City are not keeping the ball in the same rate that they have before. And Crystal Palace is very, very dangerous on the counter. So if they continue to misplace passes the way they have this season, and with the power that Crystal Palace has on a counterattack, they got some athletic center backs, Chris Richards, U.S. national team player being one of them. It could be an interesting matchup for City. As you mentioned, Crystal Palace is on a good route. And you look at the teams that Castle and Chelsea and Nottingham are playing, it's not the same. Newcastle, you would have thought Man U at one point would have been a difficult matchup. That's what they have this weekend. I would hope and imagine that Newcastle feels confident about that game. Chelsea's got Ipswich, so they should take care of that. And Nottingham Forest has Everton, which has been a difficult side to play against since David Moyes has returned. but nonetheless, games to be won, games to be had. And Man City, imagine if we would say that the Champions League spots have expanded to 5, and Man City is not occupying any of them with 7 games left in the season. That's crazy.
Yeah, and again, something that we had talked about at the beginning of the year, we both thought that Man City would take a step back. I think they've taken about 3 steps back this year. So really surprising to see what's happened there with Man City. Before we go, let's just get a comment on the U.S. men's national team. No action until friendlies against Turkey and Switzerland in June. But boy, they need something positive to be happening around the men's national team. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolute panic, how worried are you about what the state of Mauricio Pochettino's team right now?
I'm always the worst guy to ask about panic or overexcitement because I'm about as Switzerland as you can come. I'm never too high, never too low. But I'd say that if you say 10 is the worst, like panic alerts, like all going, I give it about a 6, 7. I think there's a lot to worry about because nothing was resolved in some key positions during this previous windows as far as goalkeeper and your center forward, which really is how chances are created for others around. So I think there's 2 big misses that we still don't have an answer for. And I don't know that there's an answer outside of like when it comes together, hopefully it comes together. Hadji Wright keeps scoring goals at Coventry in the Champions League. Josh Sargent keeps scoring goals. But when they come to the national team, they seem to freeze. It never happened. So I think there's a great deal for concern.
Well, you've got what's happening with the women's national team, seemingly even with a loss, as we talked about with Becky, a lot of positives building for the future. They've got a longer window, a longer runway to get to the World Cup, of course, in 27. Then you've got the men's team, and just over a year until World Cup play begins in 2026. And more questions seem to be coming every time they step out onto the pitch. Mauricio, thanks so much. We'll see you on TV this weekend and talk to you again next week here on the Sporting JAX Soccer Hour.
You've been listening to the Sporting JAX Soccer Hour on AM 930 Fox Sports Radio Jacksonville. Tune in every Thursday evening at 6 for the latest from Sporting JAX in the world of soccer. Sporting JAX kicks off the USL Super League season in August. Join the movement and become a season ticket owner. Call 904-863-KICK or go to sportingjax.com.
Hey there, folks. If you're like me and love some good quality barbecue, then look no further than the Bearded Pig. Whether it's some juicy pulled pork, succulent spare ribs, or their award-winning Texas brisket, no one beats the Bearded Pig. With 2 locations to serve you in San Marco and Jax Beach, the Bearded Pig is the spot for lunch with friends, dinner with your family, or a great happy hour featuring their signature backyard pigtails. So come in today for the best barbecue in Jacksonville. And don't forget that homemade banana pudding.
Hey there, this is Jeremy Baker inviting you to Grace Note Brewing. We are a brand new music-themed, family-friendly craft brewery that specializes in offering something for everyone, whether that's the Jam ESB, the Berry Tone Fruited Sour, or the Enharmonic IPA. We are located at the Sadler Point Marina, underneath the Roosevelt Bridge between Avondale and Ortega. You can even get to us by boat. Come check us out in person and stay tuned through social media at Grace Note Brewing. Cheers, everyone.
Greetings from Jacksonville, the flip side of Florida. Here, you'll find flip-flops and cowboy boots, sushi and soul food, surfers and skaters, Mozart and monster trucks, beachgoers and townies. Find art galleries and city murals, funky neighborhoods, and historic districts. Spend the day on the river or at the beach, in the park or on the trail, at the game or on the green. On the flip side, anything is possible, except running out of things to do. Learn more at visitjacksonville.com.
Sporting JAX was named after a year of consultation with the First Coast community, who wanted our soccer clubs to be accessible and authentic. They told us it was important for our brand to strongly represent both our women's and men's teams, and to proudly represent our entire region, widely known as JAX.
Like our city, our club's crest is bold and determined. Our shield symbolizes our resolve to honor and defend the First Coast. Our circular badge represents our inclusivity of all.
As Sporting JAX, our name supports our mission to provide everyone in our community with a sporting chance. Our colors, chosen by our fans, are inspired by our beloved First Coast sunrises, symbolic of our region's stunning natural beauty.
Playing at the highest levels of the United Soccer League, our club is committed to providing a true local pathway to professional soccer, to elevating soccer and other sports in our community, and to lifting every voice in everything we do, both on and off the pitch.
We are Sporting Club Jacksonville.
We are Sporting JAX.